I just got this new Walkman, but can anybody tell me how to insert a cassette? Nah, I'm joking. This is a ZimaBlade, a single-board computer whose designers were indeed inspired by iconic retro devices like this Sony Walkman. Not this or any other model in particular, but simply referring to a time where there was no cloud or need to pay for subscriptions just to access your own files. No tech giants spying on you, no training AI on your data without consent. A time where you could just own something and keep it for as long as you wished. The ZimaBlade is designed to be a home server system that aims to solve all that. So get your head or data out of the cloud and don't mess with me or my son ever again! Icewell sent me this ZimaBlade for free and I do get to keep it, but all opinions are my own and they have no say in what I say. With that out of the way, let's see what they sent me. The ZimaBlade itself comes in a neat looking box that's pretty small. However, it doesn't include a power supply, that's a separate one. Then again, you are able to buy just a bare bones ZimaBlade without it if you wish. After opening the box, we're greeted with this card that has a QR code on it and a message from the founder of Icewell, the company behind this product. Next, there's a very basic user manual in a bunch of different languages. And here's my new Walkman home server. It's tiny! It has a PCI Express by 4 slot at the side. When we turn it around, we find a mini DisplayPort output, but there's also a USB-C port, which should be version 3.0 with power delivery and could also function as a video output. It has a single gigabit Ethernet port and a USB 3.0 port. At the other end, there's 2 SATA 600 ports and a power output for your SATA disks. I received a 7700 model, which is rocking a 4-core Atom E3950. There's 32GB eMMC storage soldered onto the board, so you can't upgrade that, but you know, SATA ports. Back to what's in the box. Under this piece of carton we find some stickers. Okay. There's a single SATA cable included with the blade. The SATA connector is placed upside down. Why? Anyway, with this you can connect and power one drive. Last thing we find in the box is this short USB-C cable for powering it with your own power supply, I suppose. But wait, there's more! Because I received the whole NAS kit. That means I received this SATA Y cable that lets you connect a whopping 2 drives to the ZimaBlade. Interestingly enough, these connectors are not in the opposite direction like the single one. The ZimaBlade itself comes without any memory installed, but again, the NAS kit comes with a 16GB DDR3 memory module. Let's open it up and install that one right away. First, get a black plastic out of the way and remove the 4 screws that hold the transparent cover in place. So here's the whole unit in all its naked glory. This is the memory module they included. Let's just plug it in. There's only place for one, no dual channel option on this one. Also included with a NAS kit is this mini DisplayPort to HDMI adapter, so you can connect it to an HDMI monitor. And this 3.5-inch drive rack with a place to put the ZimaBlade on top. A very simple but smart solution in my opinion. Last but not least, it comes with the actual power supply, which has easy to change plugs for different countries. Let's first turn on the blade itself without any drives attached. Would it be possible to slide the blade underneath these handles? Very carefully. Check! So you don't have to turn it off to do so. Aha, Debian! Let's check the manual for credentials. Right, according to the manual you should not log in here, but open casaos.local in a browser instead, so you don't really need to connect the monitor right away. Let's try to open that URL. That's not working. Let's check the router for its IP address. There it is. Let's try that one. Welcome to CasaOS. Let's create an account. Seems like a plan. I guess I can change my profile pic here. Do I want to show the newsfeed? How nice of you to ask. Sure. It's a pretty clean and nicely looking interface. We have some widgets at the left. We'll return to those later. There's a relatively basic file manager in here, which I guess in itself could already be a decent cloud storage alternative. You can actually browse the whole server file system in here. Apparently you can even remove some system files. Maybe later. There's not much more here, but you can extend it with the App Store. If only it would load though. Could I log in through SSH to see why? Apparently not. Do I maybe have to add a user somehow? Oh, I can change my profile pic here. I'm Picard now. Settings. Search engine. Oh, that search bar opens a web search. Check. I guess this interface is kinda meant to be your browser's homepage. Languages. Doesn't even include Dutch. We can change the web UI port, but apparently no HTTPS options. Change the wallpaper. Oh, let's go for the darker one. Can't revert to the original one, I guess. What's this? Maybe I can open a session in here. Nope. No credentials in the manual, so let's search for them online. By default, SSH is enabled and open. Username CasaOS, password CasaOS. Yeah, that's pretty bad indeed. Especially if you don't tell about that in your manual. Seems like they took mi casa and su casa a tad too literal. But hey, I guess I found the credentials I was looking for. We're in! Let's make that a tad larger. Well, fast forward about half a day. I spent quite some time figuring out why the App Store wouldn't load, since CasaOS without apps is very, very limited. I connected to the Icewhale Discord server, where I went back and forth with Yule, and basically concluded that I would probably have to reinstall CasaOS completely. However, when I was looking at CasaOS's log files, I noticed the upgrade log being almost 1.5 years old. Wait a minute, the web interface tells me it's up to date. Version 0.4.8, however, is far from the latest version available. So I ran the update command from the project GitHub page. Fingers crossed. Alright, seems to be done. Let's log in again. Still looks the same, but it now reports version 0.4.15. And the App Store is working. That's quite a lot in here, which, by the way, if I'm correct, are all Docker images. So CasaOS basically seems like a very neat Docker frontend. Let's just install something dumb first. I'll go for RetroArch. Well, that was easy. There's a large number of emulators here. I guess I'm gonna need to add my own games. Cool! Playing an NES game from my new home server. Would be nice to know which keys to press though. Oh, there are some games already included in the downloads folder as well. I think these are homebrew games, not sure. Nova the Squirrel sounds fun. Let's try that one. Copyright 2018. Yeah, this sure isn't an old NES game. Cool! Yeah, so you can already play some games without having to add your own collection as well. I also installed Image, but haven't configured it yet. The tips show some information about the app. By opening Settings, you see that in this case the app is actually 4 containers bundled together. So it seems like an app is kinda like a pod on Kubernetes. Kubernetes? We can configure quite a lot on each of the containers within the app. You can also customize the installation of an app. Let's try that by installing this Memos app. You can manually override quite a lot of settings, like the version, the data location, and so on. Let's limit the maximum amount of memory it can use and CPU shares to low. Hey ho, let's go! Hey, this looks kinda familiar. Back on the main page, we see some widgets at the left, which I skipped before because after the update some of them seem a lot more useful. You can enable or disable them, but there doesn't seem to be an easy way to add your own. The CPU and RAM widget shows the server's usage in a nice and clean way. It also shows a pretty darn low temperature, which is pretty neat given this is a passively cooled machine. That wattage also seems to be the bulk of the power it pulls from the socket. If you click here in the top right of the widget, it opens up and shows which processors are eating the most of your CPU and memory. So that provides you a nice first way of finding out what might be slowing down your machine without touching the command line at all. The storage widget shows the internal storage. I guess that will change as soon as we add a drive. You can click the gear icon on the top right of the widget to see a tad more detail and create storage. Lastly, there's a network status widget that doesn't seem to change when I click on the thingy in the top left corner. Oh, and there's the current time and date on top. Almost forgot about that one. Very important. Let's add this old 500 GB SATA drive to my new home server. I did not turn the server off, as SATA supports hot swapping. So let's see if this machine does too. Well, it does start to spin, but it doesn't show up. Let's restart. I'll shut it down completely. It's a bit hard to see if it's turned on or off without looking at the monitor. There is a power LED, but it's hard to see and even harder to capture on camera. To power it on again, since there's no power button, I have to remove the USB-C connector and shove it back in. But not too fast, as it doesn't seem to power on if I don't wait for a short while. There do seem to be headers for a power and reset switch, but they're covered by the unit's casing. Anyway, this time the drive's detected. It shows up in the storage manager and seems healthy. Doesn't sound healthy, but hey, it's just a test. Let's click Create Storage. I can give it a name, choose the right drive, although there's only one right now. I guess I'll go for Format and Create, just to be sure. Creation in progress. Well, that went pretty quick. Now the Create Storage button is unavailable again, so I guess you can't format it again by accident. Nice! You know what, let's add another drive, an SSD this time. I'll use a cheap 2.5 inch to 3.5 inch adapter thingy, so it'll fit nicely into the drive rack. There it is. The hard drive seems to be renamed to SDB this time, but the volume on it is still available. Create storage. You know what, let's see what will happen if I just choose Create. It doesn't like the swap partition. Okay, creation takes a while this time. Right, so it has already mounted the partitions on this SSD, but okay. Let's reload the page. Right. So it indeed added these volumes as is. That might be a good thing if you just want to add a drive that already has important files on it, but it's not what I want now, so let's remove them. Enter password to confirm. Okay. Let's add it again and now choose Format. Yeah, so the Format option will indeed repartition your drive and format it before mounting. Good to know. What will Merge do? So here you'll see this dumbass not reading properly. I thought it would merge just the two drives, but it merges them with the internal eMMC drive. That's not what I want. Can I undo this? I am sure. Well, that worked. Okay. I would have liked to be able to mirror or stripe just the SATA drives, but it seems we need something more advanced than this to be able to do so. Since the unit has a PCIe by 4 slot, I figured we might be able to utilize that to add even more storage. I'm using this cheap PCIe to M.2 adapter to add a 1TB NVMe drive. That wouldn't fit with a backplate attached, so I had to remove it. There doesn't seem to be a way of fixating the PCIe card, so you might need to come up with something yourself with that. This is not the most reliable way to add storage. It does work though. There's our 1TB NVMe drive. Let's call this one NVMe storage, so it's easier to recognize. Alright, so let's see if we can run Jellyfin from this NVMe drive. Change the media path. Let's change the time zone as well while we're at it. Let's create a folder for my insane movie collection. Oh, we can directly share it as well. Immediately, the CasaOS machine shows up as a Windows server in my network environment, with a share to put the movies on. Nice! Let's copy the 4K 60fps copy of Big Buck Bunny on there. Alright, and I guess we can also use the web interface for that. Check! Interestingly, the file copied through the web interface has the current timestamp on it, while the one I copied over SRB still has the original one. So if that matters to you, it's something to keep in mind for sure. Okay, let's add a movie library. Something like this, I guess. This is my first look at Jellyfin, by the way, so yeah, let me know if this is something you'd like me to dive into some more in a future video. I'm not sure if it's doing any transcoding or whatever, but since the CPU is hardly doing anything, I think it's just serving the file. Let's enable Intel QuickSync. Hardly any change. So to try the hardware video encoding capabilities, I installed Handbrake. I had to add the dev DRI device by hand, so Handbrake would be able to use the GPU for this. Let's try to transcode a raw clip from the very video you're watching right now. H.264, frame rate same as source please. Why would you want to change that? It's a short clip, but it takes a while anyway, and the CPU is working really hard. Let's stop this one and use the QSV variant instead, which uses the Intel GPU. CPU usage is just slightly lower, but the performance difference is huge, so I guess we can be sure it's working here. How about H.265? Pretty slow again. And now the Intel QSV variant. Boom! Nice! So this could be pretty helpful if you need to transcode video files often. AV1 doesn't seem to be supported here. Let's see. Oh, they don't say what transcoding options are available. Enough options for decoding though, which might make the ZimaBlade a decent home theater machine as well. Not testing that today, but again, tell me if you're interested in that. Is this Atom actually capable of utilizing the full gigabit link speed? Let's copy the backup folder with all of my videos onto it. Somehow the scale of the network status changed to 2 gigabit, but we can see the graph constantly hovering around the 1 gigabit line, while CPU usage stays low, so this is perfectly fine. You see, a home server doesn't need to be a big-ass powerful beast of a machine. Let's create a share on that hard drive, see how that goes. Yeah, that's quite a bit slower. So drive speed matters much more than CPU and memory capabilities. This Atom with DDR3 memory, which admittedly is a bit outdated, is perfectly fine for building a network storage device. What if you want something that's not in CasaOS's store? One option is just to manually enter the address of a Docker image and install that. But there are multiple third-party stores available as well. On awesome.casaos.io you'll find a list of, well, awesome stores. Let's try this Big Bear store. That one seems to have quite some interesting things in it. By the way, if someone who manages that page sees this, please add instructions on how to add these. I already knew, simply because I had been trying several things when I tried to fix the store issues when I started, but it's not easy to find that information. Or maybe I'm just overlooking it, could very well be. A short explanation on this page or a link to it would be very helpful though. In a terminal, we can use the CasaOS CLI command to do this. Use CasaOS CLI app management list app stores to see the currently active stores. Run CasaOS app management register app store followed by the link to the store's zip file to add one. That's all. Easy enough, if you know. I don't think there's a way to add a store from the web interface, but please correct me if I'm wrong. So now we have a lot more apps to choose from. Firefox? There's also a user management tool, which is something CasaOS is lacking, so let's install that. Log in with the CasaOS user? Check. So now I see my exit guy user with the admin role. Let's create one for my alter ego, Michel. Oh, that's an admin as well. Can we change that? Apparently not. Yeah, I can log in as Michel and access everything I could before. So if you want to provide your family members with their own file stores, I guess you should install another file server on top of this or use something else entirely. There's a full Debian install underneath, so you could utilize that as well, but it would require some manual server setup. The Firefox instance I installed didn't seem to want to work, so I installed another one instead. That works like a charm. I guess this could be useful if you want to test a site on a different machine in a different browser. Even a YouTube video plays just fine on it. I don't think this Atom would be big on running virtual machines, but let's try it anyway. The Virt Manager app is available from the default store, so let's see if that'll work. You first need to install QEMU and libvirt on the host machine. Okay, let's do that first. Unable to locate package libvirt. What the... Oh man, I hate apt when I'm not sure what the package name should be. Probably a me problem though, but still. You can use an asterisk. Libvirt bin maybe? Ah, come on! Maybe libvirt-daemon will install the dependencies? Oh wow. Oh well, let's do this. Okay, installing virt manager. I rebooted but it won't run. Why? Ah damn, I forgot to scroll down. The exact instructions are here. Oops, feeling kinda dumb right now. It still doesn't work. Error mounting the socket to the container. It is there. Maybe just check this privilege thingy. I'd say that might be pretty important on this one. Boom! So now we get a desktop-like page with a virtual machine manager application. Let's build a virtual machine. Upload an ISO to the downloads folder. Vanilla dpub will do just fine. You must select an OS. You don't have to be so hard on me. I'll just pick generic. Let's give it 4 gigs and 2 cores. Sure, start a virtual network. There it goes. The CPU is working for sure, but it's not breaking out in sweat. I wouldn't call the performance great, but I guess it's usable for a quick test. We do have access to the internet from our virtual machine though, so things are set up pretty well. Now what about a ZimaBlade outside of Casa OS? If you push the delete button shortly after powering it on, you'll get access to the BIOS setup tool, just like on any ordinary computer. VTD disabled might have something to do with the virtual machine performance we just saw, not sure. It looks like an unlocked BIOS with loads of options to play around with. Use at your own risk though. Evaluation copy? Okay, they're shipping an unlicensed BIOS. Let's pretend we didn't see that. If you press F11, you'll get a boot menu and will be able to boot from any other drive. Note that you would need a USB hub for that, since there's just a single USB port exposed on the unit, so you can't connect a keyboard and a stick at once. It seems these ports here are USB headers as well, but I have no idea what connector to use, apart from the fact that they're unreachable under the plastic cover. Let's install Windows 11. Nah, just joking. You probably could though. Fedora boots just fine, and seems to be pretty usable even as a desktop OS. Just browsing the internet seems fine on here. Let's try a Dust Storm video, one of my favorite YouTubers. Oh, we even have sound of the mini DP to HDMI connection. Neat! Hey, just go to his channel if you want to watch that video, will ya? It's not fast, but a decent enough desktop experience for sure. So if you need a dead silent desktop machine, the ZimaBlade itself might just be a very good choice. Wanna run Haiku instead? No problem! I'd say it's a pretty cool tinkerboard as well. The Intel CPU makes this a lot more versatile than a Raspberry Pi for instance, which, by the way, isn't a lot smaller as you can see here next to my Pi 3B. Sure, it doesn't support heads like that one does, but the PCIe slot makes up for that. I do wish there would be a way to fix the card you stick in there. And since you would even need to remove the backplate for one to fit, I guess you would do best to get a by-4 riser cable and have the card in its own cage or so. The SATA ports are pretty neat for building a private NAS. And if you use SSDs, you could even leave it on your desk for some dead silent storage and/or tinkering. As shown before, it pulled just over 2 watts idle without any drives connected. When I added the hard drive, SSD and the NVMe drive, it used just over 9 watts idle. I disconnected the hard drive because I got sick of the sound it made, and running idle with all the apps you've seen started but just the SSD and the NVMe drive connected, it's using some 5 or 6 watts idle. So I guess a hard drive, or at least this one, needs more power than an SSD or NVMe drive does. Still without a hard disk, using Handbrake to upscale a clip to 4K, it used just over 15 watts. Pretty cool, right? Oh, about cooling. As I mentioned before, it's passively cooled. The backside of the casing is made out of aluminium and acts as a heatsink for the CPU. This means the housing can get pretty hot. In all of my testing, it never really heated up though, and I could always touch it without getting burned. There's a cooling mod available though, for the extreme power users among us. That's about it for now. Many thanks to Yul on the Ice Whale Discord server helping me find the issues with the App Store. Sabitek at Icewhale's Discord for being able to confirm that the unit's resemblance to an 80s portable cassette player is indeed intentional, and Don Fonzarelli to dig up some old Walkmans and having me over to film one next to the ZimaBlade. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.